Hey, Shalom. We give all praise, honor, glory to Yahweh, Bashem Yahweh Shai, Bashem HaKakodash, Telamon, the apostles, knows a great millstone. Shalom to hopefully elect. Just came across this video. Apparently out in Canada, they're, you know, they're coming with these hate speech laws. And, the whole purpose at the end of the day, obviously, is to target us. So brothers out there in Canada, um, you know, where we're, as it says in the scriptures, presenting ourselves as a living sacrifice. And this thing is they're gonna do this everywhere. But apparently this is happening in Canada right now, this bill C-9, all right, which is clearly an attack, against the elect, man, against the prophets. This goes perfectly hand in hand with, the famine of the word. This is coming. And Esau, at the end of the day, making us an offender for a word. All right, coming against the words of Yahweh Shem Shai, which this is all prophecy. All right, we know this devil is out to get us, man, and is getting ready to roll, and all this stuff he's doing is really to come against the men of the Lord, man. So watch this.
News special report. Tonight we look at religious freedom in Canada. There are many who would say it is under attack, and with new hate speech legislation that potentially could impact what people of faith say in the public square, it has raised debate among Christians as to how we should address culture and engage in what is an increasingly polarized political landscape. We're going to look into that tonight, but we start with Bill C-9. In the government's new hate speech legislation, the Bloc Québécois proposed an amendment that would remove the religious exemption for sincerely held religious beliefs, meaning potentially if something or if someone doesn't like what you share in terms of a biblical view in the public square, that could be deemed hate speech and you could be charged. Here to discuss where this all stands is Conservative MP Andrew Lawton. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's good to be with you.
So last week, C-9 was back before the Commons Justice Committee for further study. What transpired in this latest round of study?
So we never actually got to study it last week. The meeting we were supposed to have on Monday was canceled just because their parties were trying to find a way forward on what's become a very divisive and polarizing bill. We were set to pick it back up on Wednesday, and then the horrific events in Tumbler Ridge just caused.
And notice you have the words divisive and polarizing. The scriptures talk about how the Lord came to bring division. All right, he said, I came not to send peace, but a sword, and that a man's foes will be them of his own household, that he came to divide the father against the son, the mother against the daughter-in-law, so on and so forth, basically came to bring division. All right, and you see these different things start playing out, because at the end of the day, prophecy is coming to pass, and the scriptures are speaking, the prophecies are speaking. All right, and we're, going through these things, or walking, on this path, straight gate, in which ultimately the elect are going to be hated by everybody, that's just a lot of the elect. But at the end of the day, Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, are going to deliver the elect from all these different things, and the Lord is going to judge all of those that come against Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai and his word and his prophets, his men, his people, his children. All right. So all these things are coming to pass here in these last days, man. And, we're watching and we're seeing these things play out. But this is something that's, going through the Senate. They're passing. They're trying to get this bill passed in Canada right now, which I'm sure other countries are not far behind. Because ultimately, this is just the elite. Satan. Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, shooting uh at the elect in secret. They want to come up with all these different ways and all these different intentions and motivations and hate speech and this, that, and the third. But at the end of the day, it's all to, come against the men of Yahweh Shem Shai at the end of the day, man. The believers of Yahweh Shem Shai, man.
Caused all parliamentary business to be put on hold. So, as it stands now, this is actually a break week for parliamentarians. MPs are back in their ridings. But next week, we are expecting the Justice Committee to be reconvened and Bill C-9 to be once again up for discussion. And I just want to say that there were issues with the bill from the get go about the redefinition of hate, the idea of lowering the threshold at which speech can become criminalized, some other changes.
Lowering the threshold at which speech can become criminalized. All right. And there's a scripture that says, He maketh a man an offender for a word. Through peace he shall destroy many, so on and so forth. So this devil is making moves, all right, to be able to come against the men of the Lord, to be able to lock up the prophets for saying certain things, for coming out of the scriptures with certain things, and so on and so forth. All right. Because this devil, he's going to come down with great wrath, man. He's going to try to get the elect, man. He's going to come for us, man. Lord willing, be of that number. All right. Being of the hopeful elect. But the famine of the word is coming. All these things are getting ready to come and pass very soon, man. This devil is going to come very soon, man. All these things are taking place and they're happening right now. It's no joke, man.
Changes as well that this law would make to the criminal code. But this removal of the religious defense that you mentioned, this was a Bloc Québécois amendment that the Liberal MPs on the committee supported. So that
May Yahweh Shem Shai protect the brothers over there in Canada. This thing is no joke, man. All right, criminalizing speech. All right, making you a criminal for the use of a word. And what is that word? The word Yahweh Shem Shai, man.
amendment is now part of the legislation. And practically, what it means is that if this bill passes, you will remove this long standing protection for sincerely held religious beliefs and citation of religious texts that has previously protected you from prosecution under willfully promoting hate. And when you have this removal of this protection and combining this with the
Disgusting to watch this devil talk about hate. All right, when this whole thing is about being hateful towards the Israelites, man. This whole thing is being hateful towards Yahweh Shem Shai. This whole thing is about wanting to lock up and do away with the prophets, man, because we're coming out with the truth about who this devil is and what he's all about. We're exposing this guy, and so he wants to get rid of us. And so he's trying to justify himself. He's trying to use his witchcraft, man. He's trying to come with his legislation, with his spelling, all right, with his spells.
fact that there's now going to be a new definition of hate with a lower threshold.
A new definition of hate. So this guy, the devil, Esau, Edom, Satan in the flesh, gets to define what hate is. All right, he gets to define what hate is. I believe there's a scripture that says that he comes, that his righteousness proceedeth of himself. All right. And that is this guy, he worships him damn self, man. He worships Satan at the end of the day.
there are very serious concerns that people who raise religious or theological beliefs, who cite religious texts that might come into areas of contentiousness and areas of debate in society and even among faith, that you will now be attracting the ire of overzealous prosecution.
Snap your W-2 and
We don't need to go any further than that. Hopefully it's edifying, man. These things are coming to pass. You ain't gonna. Famine of the word is coming, man. You're gonna have brothers out there preaching on the highways and byways. With this devil gonna pass legislation where you can get locked up for it. You know what I mean? The Lord's gonna take away His word from off the streets, man. That's what we see. All these you see it clearly. This is this is what's coming. This is what's gonna happen. All right. So with that, hopefully it's edifying, man. We give all praise, honor, and glory. How about Shemal Shai, Bashem HaKakodash, double honor to the apostles, and those great millstones. Shalom to hopefully elect.